and welcome to this week's episode of Divine Downloads. I'm your host, Cassandra Bodzak, your spiritual mentor, helping you divinely design a life that truly lights you up. And today we are just going to talk about energy, this new moon in Leo coming off the end of the Lion's Gate that we just finished, and just what a lot of us are moving through right now. Let's just dive right in. Why not? So first off, I want to say that in gosh knows how many years of me teaching the moons and talking about the moons and podcasting and everything, these past 2 weeks leading up to this new moon, I felt like I kind of fell into like a vortex of timelessness. And this new moon in Leo really snuck up on me this morning when I woke up and was like, oh my God, the new moon in Leo is tonight, tomorrow. And as you all know, these moons and the energy of them, that leads into these next 30 days, but they're most potent, in the 6 or 7 days surrounding the moon. So you have a few days now to utilize this energy, from now until, probably the weekend, right? And, but I just feel like that's kind of representative of a lot of the energy. The Lion's Gate, I've heard from a lot of people, was very intense. For myself as well, lots of physical symptoms were emerging, and I even had a bunch of people reach out to me on Instagram worrying that it wasn't something else that's going around, but actually testing negative and knowing that it in fact was them dealing with the incredible energetic upgrades that were coming. I can't even tell you all of the physical symptoms that came up. Incredible headaches, throat kind of scratchiness. Like it wasn't even like it was hard to describe, but it was like there was so much energy around my throat, feeling hot on the inside, being very, very, very tired, very fatigued, anxiety. All of these things you have to realize are how energy is moving through our body, right? So anxiety is having like too much energy in your body at once. So you're feeling anxious, right? If you're feeling even depressed, right? Sometimes you can just be thrown off base by the energy moving through and realizing that it's a very, 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 very good thing. So don't worry. I'm sure most of you guys are kind of feeling like you're just kind of coming up for air right now, feeling like you're finally, standing on steady ground, feeling physically better, getting into that groove. This new moon in Leo is like a breath of fresh air. And I know I started feeling it probably yesterday, Sunday moving into yesterday. Of really this fresh start energy, like this giant reset button that's coming up. One of the astrologers I love on YouTube, Gregory Scott, he called this the Control Alt Delete Moon. And it's true. That's kind of what it feels like, right? It's like what you imagine your computer feels like when you restart it, when it was like so much and it just got frozen. It was too much. It was overload. It was, like I said, the past 2 weeks really were a lot of intense energy moving through it. And sometimes when that's happening, we can feel super overwhelmed. We can feel indecisive. We can feel like we're floating in all of this, right? And we don't know what way to step forward, what way to go next. And now the clouds are kind of parting for us and we're able to see, the path moving onwards. I did a card reading on TikTok the other day, and it was saying the light at the end of the tunnel is coming. And I do really believe that this new moon in Leo is part of that light at the end of the tunnel that's saying, okay, you've learned a lot, you've changed a lot. And a lot of the energetic changes that have been going on for you are so much bigger than your conscious mind, or so much bigger than maybe what you've been consciously able to wrap your head around in the past couple weeks, because so much of it is happening in your DNA, your auric field. So much of those upgrades are happening on that energetic level that it's not, we always think, oh, we have to have some kind of mental aha or, whatnot to have that upgrade, but it's not really true. So much energy is happening and shifting that you might notice that things that you would have experienced more resistance to are flowing a little bit better. things that maybe you're hearing more clearly what your intuition is trying to say and going with that. And this new moon kind of comes on the edge of that to say, Leo is kind of this bright sunshine, this roaring lion, the king, this royalty energy that's kind of coming in, that's saying reclaim your power. Get really clear on what your heart's desires are. And it's okay if you have some fears, but this is time to be courageous. This is time to roar. This is time to stand up, right? Where it's falling on the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote. What a perfect, connection, right? Because the energy of Leo and the energy of this is really asking you to say, what do you in your heart know is right? What do you in your heart know is true? And what do you feel like you need, or what this next step is for you? And being really fearless in moving towards that, being really confident, really being sitting in your worth, and knowing Leo is, I don't want to say, it's a healthy amount of selfishness, right? It's a healthy self-identity. Leo is the energy of really knowing you're worth it. Like, you're worth whatever it is that you're desiring. You don't have to compromise anymore. You don't have to dim yourself or feel like you have to do something because that's what society is telling you have to do, right? It's kind of breaking the rules in a way, right? If we think about that with the suffragettes, and really knowing, well, you know what's right is that both women and men should have the right to vote. That's just what's right. And the patriarchy or the rules of that day were like, well, no, men are better than women. Men get the right to vote, right? And saying, okay, well, this is the norm right now, but we're here to break it, right? And so looking at that in your life too, right? And saying, where are the things that are oppressing me, right? Where are the things that I have put myself in a box for, that I have thought about things in a way based on what was the norm, based on what was expected, based on how everyone else does things, right? And when can I come back to myself, to my individuality, right? And that Leo is also that royalty, that accepting that you are a queen, you are a king, that sovereignty, that personal power, and saying, well, what does my heart truly desire? What does my heart know is true in that deepest way? And then acknowledging the fears that you have up against it, acknowledging what's coming up, and then saying, okay, I see you, and I'm going to courageously move forward, right? And so the fresh beginnings that we're getting right now, it's almost as if I feel like this summer has been this time of a shattering, right? Of us really, really, having to move through some deep emotions, having to see some deep truths about ourselves, some ugly truths about ourselves, helping to see the way that we have short circuited, the way that we have not shown up fully in our lives, and the way that we have allocated our power to other people, saying, oh, well, my husband says that we have to do this, so I guess we have to do this. My boss says that it has to be done this way because it's always been done this way, so I guess that's how I have to do it. The world says that this is the model for how you do this, so that's how I've been programming it. And through the shattering and the clarity that's come through the Lion's Gate and through so much of the energy this summer, and the eclipse season this summer, it's almost like this new moon is a recollecting. It's like, okay, we've got ourselves back together, and we're getting this fresh clarity, and from this more balanced place, from this sovereign place, from this place of truly knowing our worth and knowing that we can create whatever we want is possible. Let's move forward from there. And then once again, thinking about that again, under this lens of it being the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote, Um, right now, as you know, I'm a 33-year-old woman that since I was able to vote, I've always been able to vote, right? Most of our mothers have always been able to vote, right? We're really getting into our grandma and great grandma, our great grandma's generation and beyond that didn't have the right to vote. And so it's so easy for us right now to think about it under the context of, well, of course we would have the right to vote. You know, of course we fought for that and we won. That just makes sense. But you have to really take yourself back there and realize at the time it just didn't happen, right? It just didn't happen. It's like, you know, right now women still don't make as much money as men do for, you know, on the dollar. And so when we think about that, I'm sure that there's going to be a future generation that's going to look back and be like, well, I'm so glad that they corrected that because that was just wrong, right? Like, why would that be? That doesn't make any sense. That's not fair, right? And it will be pretty plain as day to future generations. But in our generation, we're still very much in the fight for that basic equality, right? Pay equality. And but thinking about that again, that's the macro, thinking about that now in the micro of your life and asking yourself, okay, well, where are the things that I'm saying is impossible or I'm saying can't be done or can't be done that way because I don't have a reference point for it? Because I don't know, or I haven't seen someone do that before. And, you know, it's interesting. I know that there's some, you know, one of the popular manifestation teachers techniques is to find people that are already doing what you want to be doing or have manifested what you want to be manifesting so you can use them as an example for your subconscious. And while I agree that this is very powerful, I also truly believe that we are moving into an era where we are not going to have expanders, where we are going to have to be our own expander. We are going to have to be our own role model. We are going to be creating things and creating ways of being and ways of living and ways of taking care of the earth and ways of showing up for our country and in our personal lives that, you know, that haven't been done before, that we are going to be a generation that really sets a precedence for possibility. And so don't get discouraged if you can't see someone that's done it that way. You need to trust your intuitive hit and your intuitive guidance that says, I deeply desire to do this way. And even if it's not logical, and even if the thinking of the world is saying, well, that doesn't make sense, right? You need to really, really, really trust your intuition because it is strong. It is so strong right now, and it is guiding you. Those things that your heart deeply wants, the things that your heart is craving, that is where your courage is being called up, right? Your personal power is being called up, and you are being asked to take those steps forward. So one of the reflections that I wrote down for this new moon is, what would you do if you had no limitations? What would you do if it got to be your way, right? If you had complete sovereignty over the decisions of what's going on in your life, what do you truly deeply want? And being able to sit with that and honor that and know that it's not an accident that you feel that way. It's and it doesn't matter what anyone else is going to say about it. It doesn't matter if no one else has done it that way. It doesn't matter if that's how typically things are done or whatnot. Really allowing yourself to get back, get clear. Where am I, where am I intuitively being guided right now in my life? What am I being called to step into right now? And it's going to be scary. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be things that feel scary. There's going to be things that you're going to have to go against the grain for. You're going to have to fight for your truth. But having that courage to know that in that fight for your truth and in that claiming of your worth and your sovereignty, what's meant for you will stay and what's not meant for you will leave. And whether that's people or jobs or whatever is going on, that is just part of the process. And these steps forward, these courageous steps forward, are for your soul's journey. They are divinely designed to help you get to a place where you feel more happiness and peace and joy and alignment on a regular basis. And Leo comes in to just give us that boost, to just give us that energy, so we can set intentions around that today, so we can get really clear on what that looks like for the next month. And how we want to show up for that, and get really honest about what are the things that we've been giving ourselves limitations on. What are the areas where we're not honoring how we truly feel, or perhaps we're not being courageous enough and letting ourselves roar. And, Leo, also heart, but also throat chakra, right? With letting yourselves roar, letting the truth in your heart come out through your mouth and saying it, even if it's scary, even if it's going to be met with opposition, being able to vocalize that. That's really what this all new moon is coming to help us move through. And it's a powerful start. If you think about this, it's kind of like the school year starting new moon. I don't know if it's too early. I know some kids are already getting back to school right now. But as we move out of summer and into fall, it is kind of like, okay, we've had summer brought us through the ringer, and now fall's coming. We can get really clear about what we want moving forward, and get courageous and stand in our personal power and take those steps. So I hope this was helpful for you. Share it with a friend so that you guys can talk about it and, actually articulate to yourself what are the ways you've been limiting yourself. I think having these conversations with a close girlfriend or a partner is so important, because you can kind of push each other and pull it out the same way you would do if you were, in a session with me, right? And for any of you guys that missed out on the Clarity, Miracles, and Momentum retreat, but are craving a weekend to really clear out some fears, unpack, move some tremendous energy, and get a clear game plan moving forward, you can click the link below and still grab that. It's all recorded, so you can do it on your own time, whenever works for your schedule. And for the next month, I will be open for some one-on-one spiritual mentorship clients. So if you have been thinking about taking it a step further and working with me one-on-one for a while now, I highly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. Fill out an application, and let's hop on a phone call and see if it's a good fit. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week on Divine Downloads. Don't forget to subscribe.